Welcome to a very special edition of the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host. Thanks for joining me. Hope you learned something this time around. Back to our Industry Insider periodic series, this time with a player you should get to know who is making inroads into our world. Larry Potterfield is the founder of Midway USA.com. You know those folks. They're sponsors of the show, of course, but they're also making a play for the upland bird hunting market right now in a very competitive industry. You know all the other players, and you're hopefully getting to know Midway USA as well. This guy started as a humble veteran selling gunsmithing supplies and parts. Now they're an international online retailer of, well, as he puts it, anything for hunting, shooting, and the outdoors. But the guy is also a benefactor in so many areas close, near and dear to our heart, from youth shooting to conservation. This guy walks his talk. We'll have an exclusive interview with Larry Potterfield of Midway USA, making up the bulk of the podcast. Also, our Handle It segment, always there. Question from social media, Thomas Makowiak, on who should the dog retrieve to when you're hunting in a group. We'll answer that question as well as a few other things here at the Upland Nation podcast. Coming up right after this, we're made possible by Sage and Breaker Gun Care products, Pointer Shotguns, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, TrulockChokes Tubes, MidwayUSA.com, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, and LandTrust.com. Well, it's cooled off, so we're getting longer runs, but we're also going back to the drawing board, or, well, let's call it the training table. Here, Flick has been a little bit lax in his retrieving lately. Been talking to a lot of people about that in the last few weeks on the podcast too. So we're going back to about square two, maybe square three, getting down and drilling the fundamentals, and hopefully he gets that all figured out, because pretty soon he's going to have to deliver. In fact, it's not too long till we are headed for Montana. And I don't want to go trying to find the few sharp tails I shoot. I want him to do that work. So back to the table, back to the e-collar, and a lot of positive reinforcement as well. Seems to be working. The proof is in the pudding. I'll have a full report once we get back from Montana. The Upland Nation podcast is brought to you by Pointer Shotguns. Hey, 45 days to the Chucker opener in Nevada. Maybe I'll see you there. I'll be down in that country, and maybe one or two of you will as well. Anyway, Pointer Shotgun's the best over and under for less than $500, according to Target Focused Life. That's the Pointer Acreus. And it's a good example of kind of the choices you have at Pointer Shotguns. If you're still looking for your next great gun, you're upgrading in one way or another, the Acreus is a perfect example. You can get it in Cerakote, 3 different colors, blued, nickel receiver, every gauge. It's all there. Learn more at pointershotguns.com. Find a nearby dealer. They're always in stock. They can always get them. pointershotguns.com. And I mentioned Montana, heading there with my friends from landtrust.com. I got to tell you, this is a way to do it. If you're traveling a long distance and you want to be assured of a place to hunt, landtrust.com is where you start your search. Yeah, open a free account, shop around, find a place that looks good, book a day or 2 or 3, bring a friend and your dog, and it's all yours. Exclusive private land access takes all the stress out of planning an upland hunt. Learn more about getting outdoors without the crowds at landtrust.com. All right, let's get to our Industry Insider interview today with Larry Potterfield of Midway USA. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this. It's a pretty wide-ranging discussion, but if nothing else, you will be motivated and inspired by this guy's vision. Well, I'll let him speak for himself. Larry Potterfield is a legend in our time. And what did I call you in the truck earlier today? The outward manifestation of visionary. And Larry, I got to tell you, I don't bestow compliments on many people, and I don't get any either. But Larry Potterfield, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And that is quite a compliment, an outward manifestation of a visionary. So I think that's a compliment, and I accept it.
It is a compliment and well deserved. You know, I've been lucky enough to spend a good part of the afternoon, well, the midday, with Larry, doing everything from shooting sporting clays to touring some incredible conservation projects and some other things. We're going to cover all of that, Larry. But what I there are not chucker in this office, but there are on my phone. I'd really like to talk first about Midway USA and your evolution and the things that I think made you're looking downstream hours and hours, weeks and weeks, downstream generations. And that is something that we don't see much in the business world anymore. So give me your your overview of Midway USA, starting from the beginning, just a nutshell.
Well, it's been 47 years.
It's a big nut.
hard to put 47 years into a nutshell. 18th of June in 77 we started. I was just out of the Air Force. Younger brother Jerry and I were partners together. He stayed in the business for first 2 or 3 years and then wanted to get back into farming, so he did that. Just been Brenda and I since that time. So 47 years now. Lots and lots and lots of change. But in those days, we're just a little gun shop, a rural area, not in town, pole barn building. So, I mean, we worked with a general contractor, but it was a pole barn. It was just like you'd put hay in on the farm. And, of course, we're just farm kids, so perfectly comfortable there. So, I mean, you open the doors and people come in and you're running a gun shop. So it started as a gun shop, 32 by 48 foot square feet. Did a little bit of gunsmithing there. Looked for deals that were bigger than the local gun shop and found deals where you could buy something out of Shotgun News in the old days and sell it on a national market. And we did that and learned things. Got through those types of things, we wound up starting buying Starline brand 357 Magnum brass from Starline out in Covina, California. That's probably the basis of it. Midway USA is the grandfather of the bulk components business. So, of course, today you can buy bulk unprimed cartridge cases from lots and lots of places. In those days, if you wanted 357 Magnum brass, Midway head stamp, only buy it in one place in the world, and that was from Midway. And then we bought 38 Special and 345 Automatic and 44 Magnum and all of those cartridges. And then we bought from Winchester starting in 85. We started buying from Remington in 87. Started buying from Lee in 87. They were the first general equipment company that would sell to us. So hard to get started in something, but I mean, that's just the way it started. And we've always been nice to customers, always paid our bills. Well, I mean, you don't have to do much right to exist and be successful.
Yeah.
And we've done those things.
You know, it's funny, but you're absolutely true, and we've all seen it these days. There are companies that don't always be nice to their customers and don't always pay their bills. That is another example of what we see out there at Midway. And I did a lot of research before I came in today on what other people think of this organization, and from the people that I walk walked over and said hello to in the distribution center, to the folks like Adam, who I've been spending the day with. The overall impression of the company is pretty much that. You just enjoy working with people, and you serve them in many ways. Just from a business perspective, you have expanded so much, not just physically, but the very exciting stuff. That new distribution center is incredible, and then the new, I guess I'll call it the administrative building, is going to be beautiful. And so I want to know what took you from way back then, when you were just finally selling unprimed 357 brass, to now, and the strategic thinking behind gun dog products, fishing equipment, clothing and camping gear. I'm just going through the list of what I've picked up in the last couple of months. It's all of that, a pair of boots, everything. Why do you keep expanding your product selection?
Well, keep in mind, I'm a customer too.
Yeah.
So I can remember the old days, and I needed a set of bases for a pre-64 Winchester Model 70, and we didn't carry them. So we carried Loophole product, but we didn't carry that particular base. Well, Larry Potterfield wants it. What do you mean we don't carry it? There got to be other people that want it. Get that base in stock. And so we did. So I don't play every game in the shooting sports industry, the shooting and hunting sports industry. I'm not a permit fisherman, if you know what a permit is. I don't ever want to go fish for a permit. I'm not much on tarpon, but shooting, hunting, fishing, practically anything outdoors I'm in for. And so where do you get it? Well, you get it from Midway. You get it from your company. So it's pretty logical that you would carry stuff like that if you possibly want it yourself.
You're the market research department.
No, the customer is the market research department.
There you go.
All you have to do is ask the customers what they want, and they'll tell you.
It's absolutely true, and you were approachable and able enough to get that kind of feedback on a regular basis. And I think part of it is, frankly, your personality. We all recognize you. You have a certain delivery when you're on our screen, or we're seeing something where you appear. Is that part of the whole philosophy, is to be like Larry?
Well, for me,
yeah.
Well, I'm a country kid from Missouri. I'm educated, of course, but I've never been taught how to think or what to say. So what you see is Larry Potterfield, and what you hear me say is what I think. Yeah. So I don't think of it as anything special, and it's certainly nothing I've been trained to do.
One of the things that struck me in digging in a little bit on the company was how impressed people are with delivery times, turnaround, fulfillment, whatever you want to call it. And I know most of the reason for it is just down the road here. It's an incredible facility. It's beyond my comprehension. Down that road. I'm pointing left, but in your speakers, it's to the right. What prompted that massive growth spurt? And I think for a while there, you had a name for that, your philosophy towards delivery. Nitro Express?
Well, forever, we've thought about customers and what does a customer want. So from the very first day that we opened, here is the store, and there's stuff in it. And immediately people started asking for stuff that wasn't in the store. And so what are you going to do? Well, we don't actually carry that, but, we order every Monday. I'll be glad to get one for you if you like. So why would you do that? Well, because the customer wants it. When are you going to try to get it? On Monday, because we started ordering every Monday morning. So from the get-go, we ordered 52 times a year. Okay, well, when can you get this product for me, Larry? Well, I'll order it on Monday, be here Tuesday or Wednesday, because we're all local distribution. So when we started then shipping, when should you ship a customer's order? And the answer is absolutely positively as soon as you get it. how could you think any different? I haven't, nobody's trained me to think that way. That's just the way it ought to be done. Why would you think any different than that? Why would 2 or 3 days later be okay? Now, when we put in the first really big logistics system here on this campus, on the Van Horn Tavern campus, they brought me the plans. I looked at them and I said, well, this is just a big roller coaster for packages. Okay. We need to name it. Because, I mean, it was a big system relative. That was 2012 or so. So I Googled up top 10 roller coasters in America. Well, here comes Nitro up. And I said, Nitro Express. Purdy invented the term Nitro Express, 1893 or something like that. We're building an express rifle, Nitro powder express rifle, Nitro Express. You can't trademark it because it's 100 years old. It's been in use, Nitro Express. So we called it the Nitro Express. The one in the new facility that we just opened up a couple of years ago is called Nitro Express 3.0.
Yep.
And there'll be a 3.5 or 4.0. It is just the most fascinating, efficient system to move our products from the trucks onto the shelves, from the shelves into the boxes, from the boxes into the truck.
It's mind-boggling to somebody who only has music degrees, but probably to everybody else as well. And, I could describe it, but let me just tell you, everybody. Imagine if Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Wars, was in the logistics business. It would look like that. We could talk all day about your retail operation. Well, we will at some point. But at this point, I really would like to talk for a minute and be selfish about what you allowed me to do today, and that is to shoot both of your matched Purdy 28 gauge side-by-sides. And for the record, yes, I lost. We did keep score. But Larry, you went through a process to get those, and I know you're going through another related process right now. What is it about those guns that gets you so excited?
Well, first of all, they're special to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I ordered them to my specifications. I chose the wood. Mm-hmm. They built them for me. It took 2.5 years. And here comes the box in, and I open the box and look at them and put them together and marvel at them. And then ultimately I go shoot them. So they're what you call bespoke guns. They're made for me. Anybody can order a set just like them, but it's a matched pair of 28 bore Purdy side-by-side, double trigger shotguns. When I'm going somewhere special to shoot, or maybe that's just going quail hunting the 1st of November, those guns, one of them, because hunt quail with one at a time, will go with me. Not every time, because I have many guns, but they're special. I'll be in England this fall, and I will probably take those guns once. I'll be in Spain. I'll be in Czech Republic shooting different birds. I go to Argentina every year or two. So they're just special guns. Now, but they're not just Larry's guns. They're special guns. You have to share something that special. Why? Who would not want to do that? And so you shot them. George Weberg, the farm manager, shot them. Adam Augustine, the VP marketing, he shot them. Why wouldn't you share such special things? I got to shoot them also, a couple of times.
Yeah, pretty well too. I think you were Top Gun every time we shot, but they're fit for you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, by the way. But a lot of people wish for a bespoke gun, and they get a reasonable facsimile or something that has some aspect of it that is custom. But walk us quickly through that whole process. You said 2.5 years. How does it start, and what are the big steps between when you start, you walk into the Purdy showroom probably, and then it arrives? What are the big in-between steps?
The Purdy people or the Holland people can tell you this much better than I can, but all guns start with the barrels. So you want 28-inch barrels. You want a 6-pound gun. It's 28 gauge. easy, and you know what kind of a rib you want, whether you want a ventilated rib or solid rib or swamp rib or whatever. You know what kind of choke tubes you want in it and all this. Easy to build the barrels first. They start always with the barrels. Everybody does. And once the barrels come in, then they're ready to start on the receiver. And once they get the receiver roughed out, they're ready to fit the receiver to the barrels, and now they fit. Then they have to build all these little parts inside, and they have to get all those little parts inside after they make them. So make the barrels. Now you can make the receiver. Now make all the small parts. When you get all that done, now you're really ready to stock it. Then you're ready to fit and finish everything. You imagine laying the ribs on the gun. I was in the Holland & Holland plant, and I had a pair of 410s made by Holland, and they were soldering on the top ribs, the pair of guns. He was weighing the solder in his hand so that the soldering on the left rib,
oh my God,
the left rib, the number 1 gun and the number 2 gun, that solder weighed exactly the same. They're a matched pair. How do you, don't mess with them too much. Make both tubes the same, both sets of tubes the same. You haven't screwed anything up yet. Now you're going to screw it up by putting too much solder on one and not enough on the other one. All this stuff they do minutely. Every trigger, the front trigger is normally a little bit heavier, a little bit lighter than the back one. So you're making these triggers. It's all got to be the same. The engraver's got to do the same thing. Wow, wow, wow. When you get them, you never get 2 pieces of wood that are the same unless they're fake, okay? But if it's natural wood, they're going to be a little bit different. These are awfully, awfully close to balanced, cut out of the same blank that cut out of the tree, and the blank was big enough that they could say, this one, and the feather and the fiddle all runs about the same. Wow. But step after step after step, different craftsmen, maybe a dozen different craftsmen making a gun.
Yeah.
And nobody knows how to make the whole thing.
Which is an interesting business strategy as well, now that I think about it. But you have not only input, but you provide feedback at various steps too, don't you?
Are you talking about the business or the gun making?
At the gun making. Well, they showed it to you in the white, for example. You talked about that. It's got to be a fascinating process. You've been through it a bunch of times. For most of us, it may as well be black magic. But what is it that you end up with that is so special about those guns? You want to share them. I get that completely. I'm the same way. But nobody wants to share my guns. But why do you want other people to handle those guns carefully and shoot them? What is it?
For me, it's a matter of providing an experience.
Yeah.
So as a human being, when do you get a chance to touch a Purdy shotgun?
Yeah.
To shoot a pair of Purdy shotguns? Mm-hmm. Well, I have them. Okay. You come to see me. What am I going to do? Keep them hid away from you so you can't see them? Of course not. So you shot them. George shot them. Adam shot them. I shot them. They're just guns, and they're meant to be shot and meant to be shared.
And they're pretty good to shoot too. Yeah, I did better than usual, and that's saying something. Sharing is an important part of your and Brenda's entire life.
Yeah.
You shared a tour with me of Midway Farms and the Midway Lake that's under construction, and I want you to talk about that for a minute. Just why are you so motivated with, we'll talk at length about the foundation, but all of these things are, you're an adult Boy Scout, Larry, and more. But what is it that motivates you to do that?
Well, first of all, I never heard of Boy Scouts probably till I was in high school.
Okay.
So I'm country kid, and there weren't any Boy Scouts out there. Brenda and I are again just country kids. We're quite well matched. We've been married for 54 years. We've worked hard. We've been successful in the business. We have stuff beyond our needs. So what do? Do you go buy an island in the Pacific? Do you go buy a cabin off Yellowstone Lake? I mean, what do you do with money? We've never wanted any of those things. We're quite local, and while we enjoy some farm ground 15 miles away, there's nothing that we have to travel to. So the things that we have, we can share because we have the time to share. If we go to Alaska fishing, we take people with us. We go to Argentina shooting doves, we take employees with us. The same thing all over the world. And that's just who we are. We share things.
And now you've gone. Now, it's been around for quite a while, but you've taken that to another level with the Midway USA Foundation. What was the motivation there, and what are you doing with the foundation these days?
Wow. We started giving them money away in 1992.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why anybody would remember that, but I remember working with the NRA and creating an endowment that we put a little bit of money into, with the promise that we'd put more into it year over year, and that they had to do this particular thing with it, that they didn't have an endowment to do that. So we thought this idea should be funded, and the NRA foundation said they would take the money. So we were doing that for 92, 15 years thereabouts. In 2008, then, we really needed to do something else because the company was growing. We had more money to give away. And so we came up with the idea that probably the biggest constraint in shooting sports was money for high school and college kids to shoot, called youth shooting, if you would. And so we came up with the idea, why wouldn't we create an endowment where you can get people to put money into the endowment, and you put it into endowment for a particular school. And it stays there forever, and the school can get money. They can help raise more money. The communities can. And now, every year, forever, you've got money coming to that team in that community. 2008, we did that. So, it seems like forever ago, but there's $400 million in the Midway USA Foundation today that is endowed money for high school and college shooting teams and some state agencies that facilitate youth shooting. We expanded it to include them. And every year we pay out several $1 million out of there. Now, it's not part of Midway USA. It's Midway USA Foundation. They are licensed to use the Midway USA name, and they do. But there's a staff of 12 or 15 people there. They help communities raise money. That $400 million grows every year. Brendan, I'd like to see it get to $1 billion in our lifetimes. That's spent out $50 million a year for youth shooting. Well, that sounds pretty interesting to us.
And us. And how many lives do you think you've affected with that endowment and that program?
There's a bunch. First of all, there are 2,650 teams, I believe, that have money, have an account and have endowed money in that account.
Wow.
So there's about 22,500 high schools and colleges in America. Not all of them have teams. Almost all of them that have teams have money in the Midway USA Foundation in their account. So the average team there, and we collect all this money as we give them out their grants, or we collect all this information as we give them out their grants, there's maybe 125,000 kids or thereabouts every year that are involved in youth shooting at the high school and college level. Now, they're only there for a few years and they're gone. Okay, so the total number of kids, I don't know, but that's 125,000 a year. And every year some fall off the back and some new ones come in on the front end.
That's a lot of kids. Maybe Dick Leeper can give us a number later, but it's got to be in the millions.
Dick Leeper is the chairman of the board of the Midway USA Foundation. It is a private foundation. It's a public foundation. It's not private, so anybody can make a charitable contribution to it, to their team in their community or wherever they went to college or whatever they did, whatever they're alumni of. But he's done a phenomenal job and been with it for many, many years.
Yeah, and a great guy on top of everything else, and one of your quail hunting partners too.
He's a quail hunting buddy. Yes.
I would like to talk briefly about that because we did tour some of the spots that you like, and by the way, I've marked them all down on my GPS, so I'll be trespassing this season. But what do you like so much about quail hunting? We talked about a couple things, and I'm just fascinated by why people go hunting.
Well, first of all, I'm a hunter from long
Way
time
back.
ago. I shot my first duck when I was 9, my first quail when I was 13. There weren't any pheasants in Missouri, so it was a long time before I shot a pheasant. But I mean, I've shot squirrels and rabbits and quails and fished and picked blackberries and mushrooms and all kinds of stuff. So the quail has a special place because of the sound he makes when he gets up, and because how fast he goes, and because how hard it is to get them.
Yes.
So you can't just go collect quail. You have to go hunt them. And if you can't shoot and hit a quail, you're wasting your time, because they do not fall down if you don't hit them. And the great cat's meow is to get a double.
Yeah, it
on
is.
a covey rise. So,
is there something really special about managing a piece of property and then shooting a quail on that place?
I don't think there's anything special in my mind. Here's a piece of property. The property exists. You may own it, but you don't really own property.
Yeah.
You just manage it during your lifetime. So I don't take any special joy. I shot this quail where I helped develop the habitat.
Yeah.
There's quail there, native quail everywhere we are. Not as many as we'd like, but we hunt quail, native quail every fall, wild quail. And I feel just great finding them, pointing them, jumping them, getting a shot at them, and then getting one or more. And I always have. But that's a quail is a special game animal.
We'll have more from Larry Potterfield of Midway USA, as well as our Handle It segment, where we all decide who Mia should retrieve to when somebody other than her owner shoots the bird. First, this word from TrulockChokes.com. Precision-made, tight tolerances on state-of-the-art CNC equipment. Isn't that what you want out of any of the gear you use? High quality, unbelievable attention to detail. Now, I learned something a while back, and I might have mentioned it once or twice. The reason choke tubes get loose is the tolerances on the threads that screw it into the barrel are too loose. You get high-quality choke tubes made with high-quality materials, much less of a problem. Learn more about the choke tubes that you might be needing and all the choices at TrulockChokes.com. I was at the Purina Pro Plan Sport mothership in St. Louis a few weeks back. Learned so much about, well, the things they do that other people don't do. They've got an incredible research department always looking into animal health and performance. I can't think of anybody else who has as many people on the staff, including a pilot plant to test out new dog food formulas right there on site. These folks are doing the research. They've got the data. That's why they are the choice of champion sporting dogs. 85 of the 100 champions last year fed Purina Pro Plan. Learn more about why at ProPlansport.com. Now let's get back to the discussion with Larry Potterfield, Midway USA. You know, getting back to the youth shooting and expanding that a little bit, one of the things we did was literally from the bottom to the top. We toured what is going to be a new lake. I mean, not many people can say they built a lake. But let me tell you, everybody. Oh, by the way, I'm Scott Linden. I'm the host of the Upland Nation podcast. That's Larry Potterfield. Larry is the founder, along with his lovely wife, Brenda, of Midway USA. .com for all of us when we're talking about it. Larry, why are you building a new lake? I mean, what is with you to have the energy and the willingness to dig a giant hole in the ground? And I mean, 38 acres of water, everybody. Why bother?
I'm trying to think, why would a man want another shotgun?
Yeah, okay.
Or another bird dog?
Yeah.
And it's just because you can. So Lake Midway is being built, and it's on Midway Farms, and here's Midway USA that also sells fishing tackle, so I'm sure we'll sponsor the youth fishing tournaments. Mm-hmm. But here we have the northeast end of Midway Farms North. We bought that first piece of ground in '83. And part of this lake is on that first piece from '83. Mm-hmm. We've added several pieces to it. Here's an opportunity to build a nice big lake. The watershed people were going to build one there 10 years ago. They kind of laid it out, and then they ran out of money, so they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So it's always been in my mind. And so here is an opportunity to build it. I've got the time to build it. I've got the money to build it. I understand what I want, because it's not just a big hole in the ground with a dam on one end. So we created the idea in building this lake that, one, we would sculpt the lake bottom. So normally you clean out the trees, you build a dam, and you build up the lake, and it's deep on the one end and it's shallow on the other end. We have, with track hoes and bulldozers, sculpted the lake bed so that it's about 5 foot deep all the way around it. So it's a 38-acre lake. You must have 2.5 miles of shoreline or whatever. No matter where you would stand around that lake, it's fishable. That is, it's not weeds and 6 inches of water, it's fishable. And then we said, okay, now we've got a fishable bottom. We have literally managed the bottom. That's pretty unique because not many people sculpt the bottom of the lake. Now let's figure on some habitat in there. So the habitat is either changes in the elevation of the floor bed and or rocks and tree stumps and all this kind of stuff. Well, we're doing all that. So then from the get-go, why do you want to build this lake? Well, it'd be great for the kids to fish in it if you could really, 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 really manage the fish so that when kids came to fish, they always caught fish. So we've got the sculpted lake bed. We've got the habitat. All that's perfect. All the little ditches that run into the lake then, we dammed them all up for silt control so that silt never runs into the lake. It's all caught there. And we decided we would make them into minnow ponds. So I believe there's 13 minnow ponds around this lake then that every spring you close up the valve. Well, you close up the valve in the fall, and they fill up with water. In the spring, you put the minnows in. And these are just feed minnows. Well, you don't have to feed minnows. They eat algae and stuff like that in the lake, and they grow. In the fall, you can turn those fish out, and they will all leave the minnow pond because you've got a pipe in it to do that. And now they're in the lake. Well, guess what's in the lake? The fish that want to eat them and grow. So we've got the bass in the lake, and there'll be channel cat in there. And now the fish are growing. You are growing. You are making fish. Now you have to have somebody to catch the fish. Well, who wants to catch little fish more than anybody else? Well, it's the kids. So you have a fishing tournament. You say, I need to take 10,000 little fish out of this 38-acre lake. I say little. These are 10 to 15-inch bass. Who's going to catch them? You need to catch 10,000 of them. The kids are going to do this. So here's Father's Day weekend, and you've maybe got a 10 o'clock start time, and Mom and Dad come out with 3 kids or whatever they've got, and they're catching fish from 10 to 12. Scott, you and I are volunteering over in the skinning shed. We're going to be skinning these sheds. They're keeping anything under 15 inches. And there's a road all the way around. We're hauling these bass over there. You and I are skinning them. There'll be a fish fry at noon. We'll eat some of them. And there'll be another group starts at 2. They need something to eat. Whatever's left, we flash freeze, and we take to the food bank on Monday morning. And the poor folks get to eat fresh fish. Oh, my gosh. Now you are making fish, catching fish, eating fish. It's just a perfect little system.
And you're making fishermen.
Oh, are you doing that too?
Larry, you are a fisher of men and women. But it is a, what did the term, I used a term about full circle something. But anyway, it is, again, it's that manifestation of a vision that is, what was funny is what you adapt, you weren't a Marine, but what do the Marines do? They adapt in something else and something else. You are doing that. Minnow ponds out of settling ponds. Those things don't come to everybody. And if they do, they can't pull it off. One of the reasons you can, and I was a student of that for a while too, is because you're a family-owned company. You're not responsible to the New York Stock Exchange every day and every quarter. What is it about a family company like Midway USA that you are able to do beyond what I just described that some publicly held company may not be able to pull off?
Well, what you don't have as an owner of a family company is you don't have anybody to report to that's going to tell you to do something maybe that's contrary to what you want.
Yeah.
So if business is soft this year, going to lay off a bunch of people or not? Well, a family-owned company wouldn't be so prone to do that as a public company would. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got to make your numbers next quarter, therefore you got to cut 8% of the workforce. Okay, well, you guys go ahead and do that. Family companies always perform better coming out of tough times because they've still got people. So family companies, by and large, perform better than public companies in all the studies that have been done. There have been many studies on it. But who would want to run a publicly owned company if you could run a family-owned company? So we've never thought about, I mean, you've studied it, what would be the benefits of having a publicly owned company? Well, we can't find any that would be of interest to the family, so it's a family-owned company.
And doing pretty good. I every time I think about you guys, I think about one more thing that you've done that is just most people wouldn't even consider. Tell me something about the organization and you two in particular that we may not know that we should know about Larry and Brenda and Midway USA.
Wow. Well, we're highly, something the public doesn't know. Of course, I'm going to tell you some things that you do know, first of all.
Okay.
We're highly engaged in the shooting sports industry. We're still quite highly engaged in the business, even though the business is, we're board members of the business, we're owners of the business. Yeah. We don't actually run the business any longer. Mm-hmm. We do that. We're really serious hunters, serious fishermen. Brenda's a Diana Award winner. She's going to get the Boy Scout Conservation Award sometime this fall. She's been active in Boy Scouts for forever. We give away half of our income. So we make $1, we give away 50 cents. We make a lot more than $1. But we give away half, literally, the maximum tax allowable amount. We give it to various different charities in the shooting sports industry. We're 75 years old, still active.
I'm not holding that against you.
Brenda's, I'm not going with Brenda. She's going to Turkey this fall.
Oh.
She and Sarah are. I'm going with her to Tajikistan. She wants to hunt a markhor. So, I mean, that's pretty serious. I don't want her in Tajikistan by herself. I don't care to shoot a markhor, but I'm going with her. Okay, and this is in early December. We've got 6 grandkids. They all hunt and fish and shoot. It's a great life.
Yeah. What's a markhor?
It's a mountain antelope.
Okay.
That's quite scarce. You find them in the serious mountains of Pakistan, Tajikistan, those stand places over there. So it's a very scarce trophy. If you'd like to add one to your list of trophies, that's where you would go get it. I'm going elephant hunting in Botswana next August. Haven't been elephant hunting for 10 or 12 years as they shut it down in Tanzania. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're quite serious hunters, serious family people, serious business people, members of all the different key conservation groups. Own quite a bit of land in Missouri that we manage for conservation, land, soil conservation, wildlife conservation. So we try to be good stewards of everything that we touch.
Yeah, it's clearly working. Do you think the two are related? Do you think being a good person and being a successful business are related?
There's so many different attributes of personality, and there's so many different attributes of success in a business and so many different businesses. I have so little experience that I don't know how I can make a blanket statement like that, Scott, that says this works over here, therefore it will work over there.
Yeah.
So we adopted values several years ago that we carve into the sidewalks, and they're business values. The Baldrige organization ask us to identify our values, and we really couldn't do that. And what are the values of the business? What values does a business have? And we finally came to the conclusion that businesses don't have values, only people have values. And a smart business would identify the most important of the people values, the human values, adopt them as their own, and then they would build an organization of people who shared those values. Oh, well, once you come up with it that way, there's no other ways to think about business values than that they're but human values. Build an organization of people who think the same way about basic human values. I think we have 9, honesty being the first one, integrity, stewardship, loyalty, respect for others. When we hire people based on if we think they share these values, if we think you don't share them, well, you can't get a job at Midway if we think you don't have these 9 values. If we get you on staff and realize that you don't respect other people, I think that's our 3rd value, well, you can't stay. What do you mean you can't? Well, you have to hire me, 1, without regard to whether I support your values, and you have to keep me without regard to whether, well, of course not. I mean, it's an organization of people, and they all get along very well together. They all respect each other, all work together. Teamwork is one of the values. So that's a serious, serious key for us, but there are many, many other serious keys to running a business and just having great values.
But that's a hell of a foundation. And I walked, first I took pictures of the sidewalk, then I walked over it, and I thought, if you had to walk over those every day, you would buy into it pretty fast, especially if you were surrounded by other people who are already like that.
Well, I don't think you can teach values to people as adults. So that's something that you get both in nature and in nurture, I guess. But by the time you cross our steps and you're looking for a job, if you don't have these values, that is not our job to teach you honesty, integrity, respect for others. You have to have that to come here.
Can you give a test for that?
I sure don't know of one, Scott.
No.
I don't.
Larry Potterfield, Midway USA. We talked about your match Purdy's and many other guns like that. A lot of times you're using those, and the reason you have a matched pair is you're shooting driven birds somewhere. And we've talked about chuckers and related red-legged partridge over there in Spain, I think it was. What is it about driven birds that kind of gets your circulation going?
I think the 2 greatest hunting opportunities that exist are driven birds and elephant.
Could they be less similar?
You also could put sheep hunting up there.
And
big game hunting. I love moose hunting up in the North Country where you're on horseback. So there are some really, really great hunting experiences and shooting experiences and fishing experiences in the world. These are simply those top things. So I shot my first quail at 6:13 with a 16-gauge single shot. Well, what a great experience to shoot you go pick him up. He's your bird. You're the only one that shot. You got the bird. Wow. And I still love to quail hunt today, and that's been however many years, 62 years ago.
Whatever.
So driven birds then are what you get as you go on up, if you get invited and if you can afford to shoot driven birds, because it costs more than to shoot. It's because you're shooting birds.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost much to go shoot pheasants if you only shoot 3. Okay. But if you shoot pheasants and you shoot 20, well, obviously somebody has to pay for the other 17. That's the guy with the gun. So we've shot driven red-legged partridge, and that's what we call the chucker in America. So you see the red legs on them. But red-legged partridge you shoot all over the peninsula over there, Iberian Peninsula. We've shot red grouse in England, and you shoot that same chucker, that red-legged partridge to England. They just export them from Spain or France up the way. We've shot pheasants in Czech Republic, shot some pheasants in England also. I prefer them in Czech Republic. You get to shoot doves in Argentina. They aren't driven. They're naturally moving. some pigeons in Argentina that, again, aren't driven. They're naturally moving. But if a person likes to shoot birds, wanting to shoot more birds at the same time is more exciting than shooting less birds. It's kind of like going fishing and not catching any fish.
You've seen me.
I want to catch fish and I want to shoot birds. So son Russell and I will go to England early September, and we'll shoot red grouse there. Only place in the world you can shoot them. We'll shoot red-legged partridges there. Lots of places you can shoot those. And we'll shoot a few ducks.
At night?
Night?
Don't they shoot at night over there, too?
Well, certainly not Mr. Potterfield.
Okay.
I would never shoot ducks at night. So in their daytime, they release them in the morning.
Yeah.
They're pen-raised birds.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We'll go to, I don't think Russell will. I will get to go to Spain in early October and shoot red-legged partridges then, maybe only once. And then Czech Republic is about the first of the year. Maybe it's over Christmas, maybe the first of the year. But that's pheasants. This is where the Habsburg dynasty shot, 1880. So we're shooting in a hunting lodge that they built in 1880s, flat ground where they built forest, 40-acre patches of forest, and they're driving the bird. The birds roost in the forest, stay in the forest, come out of the forest to eat the crops and such. As soon as man shows up, they go back into the forest. You either drive one 40-acre patch, or you maybe drive one 40-acre patch into another 40-acre patch. They touch like a checkerboard does.
Yeah.
And now you've got two 40-acre patches driven over.
Wow.
They kind of do it however they want. Big operation over there. And we shoot lots of pheasants over there.
Well, you mentioned that you like the Czech Republic more than some of the other places you've shot pheasants. What do they do differently besides what you just described? Are the birds different? Is the shooting style different?
I think the contour of the land, that you're really hunting mostly, not exclusively, on flat ground. The birds are all within range.
Yeah.
I shot last year with a pair of Holland 410s and shot pheasants. And I let the grandkids beat me, well, by virtue of having chosen 410s, but I believe I was the number 3 shooter out of a line of 8 with a pair of 410s. And the number 1 and number 2 grandson beat me by 20 birds or something like that. So even with a pair of 410s in the hand of somebody who enjoys shooting them, you kill a lot of birds. So flat ground, birds close enough to shoot. A lot of times you're going to go someplace where they want to give you a 70 or 80-yard bird.
Yeah.
And then everybody brags about how high and wonderful the birds were. Well, high and wonderful don't go together in my brain for birds. If a bird isn't where you can shoot it and hit it, I don't have much interest in it.
And by the way, thank you and George for setting up a 5-stand course much like that. Everything on that course was eminently shootable if one was doing everything right. And had a great time doing that. If you had to narrow it down, because I'm sitting here, you are almost literally framed by a pair of elephant tusks. You're under a mountain goat from Alaska. There's taxidermy of all sorts. There's deer. There's that thing, and there's a greater kudu. I can't tell what that is from here. I'm not the guy for that. And a million guns, including that 7-bore Purdy side by side. How would you narrow it down? Would it be driven birds and it would be elephant hunting? Would those be the two things that you would keep doing if you had to narrow it down?
Well, fortunately, I don't have to narrow it down.
Yeah.
But there's only 12 months in a year.
Yeah.
Serious fishing or serious hunting about 12 months a year or 12 times a year that'd be about right.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, I'm going to go deer hunting here in Missouri every fall. I'm going to go quail hunting every fall. I'm going bass fishing tomorrow morning with Dick Leeper.
Nice. Say hello for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got all these things to do as I start looking at pictures and trying to delete pictures because I got too many pictures, And I say, oh, I remember we did that. Oh, I remember we did that. I remember we did that. So I'm in Argentina this spring. Brenda and Sarah and Russell Jay shot sheep in Baja Peninsula on an island off the Baja. Just every time you look back at pictures, you say, oh, I forgot I did that. Been in Alaska fishing. So there's nothing I want to give up. Every year, for the most part, I get to pick and choose of the very best that's available. and I'm pleased to be able to do that. So family always comes first. Shooting comes second, but I get to put family and shooting together. Business comes third, you know. So I'm putting family and business and shooting all together because that's just the way it's all developed.
If that's not in your book, it should be, by the way. I've just recorded it, so I don't have to write it down. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation podcast. That's Larry Potterfield, Midway USA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Larry, you started out in the gun business, and I watched how you handled all of those purdies today. And I was duly impressed with the care you gave them, and they are certainly worthy of it. My shotguns are less worthy, because I'll drop them off a cliff someday on a chucker hunt. But you know a little bit about this world. What are some of the gun care tips you think are important that we may not practice enough?
Wow. Well, there's a ton of them, and it depends on the gun. So if you're shooting a Winchester Model 12 shotgun, that's a pump gun. The care on it's a little bit different than would be on a Browning A5, a Remington Model 11 or something like that, or a break-open gun. Most recently, I've got some Fabry guns that are 100% stainless steel. So I'm even stumped a little bit. What do you have to do with a stainless steel gun to take care of it? And I find myself thinking, well, it's chrome-plated barrels that look blued, but they're not. They're chrome-plated. Well, you don't need to do anything to take stuff, residue or fingerprints off chrome-plated barrels. So I'm a little bit stumped, but otherwise, not quite the same as a muzzleloader. If you're going to shoot a muzzleloader, you need to clean it before you go to bed the day you shoot it.
Yeah.
And that's always been that way. If you take an old Browning superposed and you don't clean the chambers after you've shot it that day, the chambers will rust. And any of the soft steels will rust that way from Birmingham guns or whatever. So you really, frankly, owe the gun a cleaning, and that is clean the bore, of course, not terribly important as much as cleaning the chambers, wiping all the residue off of them that would be fingerprints. I normally spray down a shaving brush, take the shaving brush and wipe off the barrels, and then I wipe off the extra oil. And I clean out the barrel. I'm not terribly picky if I clean out the barrel. I use one of the bore scrubbers, if you would. I push it through 3 or 4 times and out. It's the residue that you're trying to get that you can see that attracts moisture. Residue that you can't see on a barrel doesn't attract moisture. So you don't need to get it scrupulously clean, the barrel of a shotgun. You just need to get out of all the visible residue.
Yeah.
And then you need to get all that chamber or all that plastic stuff out of the chamber. So I clean always with a Hoppy's number 9 on a patch. I clean the muzzles always.
Yeah.
I clean the chamber recesses always. I clean the standing breech always. And I make sure when I'm putting it back together that there's some grease. I don't use oil, but I use grease on the lumps.
Yeah.
I use grease on the knuckle because it doesn't run anywhere.
But you said something to me, and number one, that Purdy case, it showcases the gun so beautifully. It's a well-made, extremely elegant-looking case. But you reminded me that if you leave that grease on, it's going to booger up the case. I'd have never thought that. And I'll bet there's a lot of us out there with a little grease mark or a big grease stain right where those lumps go every time we put our gun in the case.
If that's what you do, that's what you get.
Yeah. You also use a product, especially on a break-open gun, particularly side-by-sides, but probably all of them, there are screws that are holding some of the pieces together over there around the action. And I have a great set of screwdrivers, thank you very much, that I use way too often on those screws. One reason you don't have to use them quite as often is you've got a secret that we should know about.
Well, I don't hardly think that Loctite is a secret.
Well, it is in my world.
But, so I use red Loctite. Red Loctite that makes the screw removable. If you're going to shoot any side lock gun, the screws that hold the side lock on are going to back out.
Yeah.
So the factories try to turn them in extra tight so that they stay tight longer. But frankly, the first time you take out a new pair of Purdy's, the idea that one of the 4 screws holding the 2 side plates in on a pair of guns is going to back out a little bit is a very real thing. There's no guarantee that it won't. Well, that's fine. I simply back that screw out the rest of the way, put a little red Loctite on it, put it back in, set it right where it's supposed to be, and by and large, that problem is gone.
And for the record, it's critical to have the right screwdriver blade for that activity. And it's hard to find a good set.
Yes.
You have several, but I'll bet Purdy made some for you.
Well, Purdy normally, at your request, will supply screwdrivers made to fit your head screw and your side lock screws. And so I always do that. You'd like to have those with you.
Yeah.
Now, you're not taking that big fancy case when you travel, but you travel with an aluminum case or a plastic case or something like that. And then you've got your screwdrivers with you, just in case you might need to repair something while you're away.
Yeah. You've seen a lot of used guns in your time, and you've worn out a lot of guns too, I bet. If somebody's shopping for a used shotgun, do you have any generalized advice? What should they look down the barrel first? Should they look at the action first? What are the things that are important? The top lever?
So we're talking about a used gun. We're talking about a used shotgun. The first thing I want to know is what kind of a gun is it and what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So let's say you're looking for an over and under and you're going to shoot sporting clays with it. The question is, what kind of a gun do you want to own? What kind of chokes do you want in it? What barrel length do you want on it and stuff like that? I'm always looking for condition and originality.
Yeah.
Is the first thing I'm looking for. I'm a bit of a collector, so I like guns the way they came out of the factory. And a lot of used guns, not predominantly, but a lot of them, would have some work done to them. I'm not necessarily a fan of that. If you got a ventilator rib, guns have been knocked over and stuff like that, and you got a dent in the rib, maybe it's been straightened back out, easy enough to do that. Maybe it's been poorly straightened back out. So I don't want a gun that's been beat up, even if it was just an accident. So I can fix that. That's not a problem. But the average person couldn't fix it. So it's really a multi-point inspection program, starting at one point and meticulously looking at it. Is there a crack in the toe? Has it been dropped on the toe and the toe cracked off? By and large, nobody looks at the toe of a gun. They just never look at it. If you force yourself to look at it, and if there's a damage there, it's $50 or more. So how can you force yourself to learn to do that? It's just like anything else you're going to do. You have to learn how to inspect a gun if you're going to buy it. It's no different than inspecting a house. Normally we would contract with somebody to inspect a house because we're not qualified to inspect it, to inspect all the things associated with it, the roof and the furnace and the air conditioner and the foundation and all that kind of stuff. But a gun has to be inspected the same way a house is, basically. Some of that you can see, some of it you can't.
Is there one red flag? Would you put a gun down and run away really fast if you saw one thing on that shotgun?
Always, if it's been refinished.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. And is that because you're kind of a collector?
It's because if it needed to be refinished, then it hasn't been taken care of.
Yeah.
And you would refinish the outside. What about the inside? So I'm very quick to, I know guns well enough that I don't have to pick it up to see that it's been refinished. So I can see that walking in a gun show floor. So there's an L.C. Smith, there's a Parker. Well, I can see that they're refinished before I ever pick them up. There's no reason to pick it up because I'm not a buyer.
No, thank you. But yes, thank you, Larry Potter, founder of Midway USA. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the tours. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for your business, by the way. You say it to us all the time, but I'm being sincere. And thanks for being a part of the Upland Nation podcast.
Absolutely a pleasure, Scott. Appreciate you being here, man.
An inspiration, a leader in so many fields. It was a pleasure to spend most of the day with Larry and his team. If you ever get the chance, poke around at midwayusa.com and learn more about his philosophy on conservation, youth, and serving his community. Stick around. We've still got the Handle It segment. I'll be answering Thomas McCowiak's question about who should his dog retrieve a shot bird to? The handler or the guy who shot it? All coming up right after this from HiVizSites.com. Yeah, take a look at the video on their site. I made that specifically to explain that kind of relationship between the gun muzzle and the flying target, whether it's made out of clay or it's got feathers on it. It's a subtle but very real relationship that needs to be cultivated, and one way to do it is, well, the way I'm doing it, putting those patented interlocking light pipes on my muzzle in place of a bead. They're bright, they're easily interchangeable for different colors, and they help your head, your subconscious, see the muzzle when you're actually looking at the target. Learn more about how that all works and why HiVizSites.com has a patent on their light pipe system. Learn more at HiVizSites.com. And take care of your shotguns right now and far into the future of the season with products from SageandBreaker.com. Gun cleaning and care, crafted at the highest caliber. Hey, new handgun cases for all of you folks who do that as well. A lifetime warranty on every product. Sage and Breaker makes gun cleaning products and accessories from spray-on cleaning, lubricating, and protecting to firearms grease and all the ways to carry and store your gun. Sign up for the mailing list. You won't miss out on future sales and new products. Learn more at sageandbreaker.com. This week on the Handle It segment, I'm going to start answering some of the questions you ask on social media. I asked you for questions, you asked me for answers. And so let's just jump right into it. Thomas McCowiak, I've probably seen your truck parked at the bottom of a draw somewhere out there. Thomas says, my wire hair Mia hunts between me and my two buddies on the big side hills in Nevada. Kind of like that one right there. Yeah. She'll go on point for birds, and whomever is closest gets the shot. But she always brings them back to me, no matter who shot the bird. So the question is, do I give the shooter the bird, keep the birds, or make them buy all the beer and dog treats because my dog did all the work? And of course, he wants all of us to know his hunting ethics only allow him to carry 6 birds in his own bag. Well, Thomas, I really can't relate to some of it. You know, I love the Chucker Hills, and I bet we've walked a few of the same hills over the years down there. But I never have that problem because I never hit many birds. It's good that your dog brings them back to you. Of course, that's how you train her, you know, unless you have a real good buddy and he's helped you train and you train your dog to go to him or to you. Yeah, at least she's bringing them all back, which is more than I can expect from Flick most of the time. But I do have a little bit of advice. When Mia brings that bird back to you, take it from her and then bend down a little bit farther and pick up a few of those big, jagged lava rocks. Hide them under the bird as you put the whole mess into your buddy's vest. By the end of that chucker hunt, he'll be dragging, and you can offer to lighten his load by taking some of those birds out again. Put them in your cooler. No, seriously. That's, again, how your dog was trained to bring him to you, and that's great. So reward that. And here's the lesson for all you folks who shoot but don't handle. When that dog is coming back, turn your back to the dog so that there's only one target for that dog to look for when retrieving, her own human. Yeah, that'll help her find the right person to retrieve to without any confusion. Thomas, I hope that helps. I hope your tongue is now firmly out of your cheek. Enjoy the season. I'll probably see you down there sometime. In the Handle It segment this week, brought to you by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. These guys are hunters. They know what works on the range or in the field, and they have shotguns for both. Yeah, midvalleyclays.com is sub-gauge central. If you're looking to kind of change things up a little bit, they got a 20, 28, 410, always in stock for you. Start by calling Dave Fiedler at midvalleyclays.com and discuss your needs, what you're shooting at, where you're going, and why you're thinking about a new gun. This guy has a line on all the hard-to-find shotguns, and he is a hunter too. So he can make some recommendations on everything from the configuration to the gauge and all of the important stuff to you. Fit, finish, colors, you name it. Learn more at midvalleyclays.com and tell Dave Fiedler I sent you. Well, I hope you learned something about Midway USA and Larry Potterfield, maybe enough to move you to do just a little bit more when it comes to some of the activities that he is strong in. Youth shooting, conservation. Larry, I want to thank you for spending most of the day with me. I want to thank you, Adam Augustine, for pulling it all together and being a great guide. Matt Fleming, Neil Lyons, and the entire team at Midway USA, thank you for your hospitality. And you who left a rating or a review, I sure appreciate it. We are growing by leaps and bounds, and it's because of folks like you who spread the word. Please keep up the good work. I also got to thank our sponsors who make it all feasible. Sage and Breaker, Purina Pro Plan Sport, Mid-Valley Clays, TrulockChokes, Midway USA, LandTrust.com, Pointer Shotguns, and HiViz Shooting Systems. Well, it's about that time of year, so I'll just tell you, I'm Scott Linden. Until I see you on the range or at a training day, I'll see you in the field. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation Podcast.